All right, now we are waiting for the man of the moment to speak to us. So I request Professor Devdas Menon to share a few words to the audience.
I'm really overwhelmed by your warmth. So I have only one word, a deep sense of gratitude. Thanks to all. Thanks to all the goodwill that you have showered. I really never thought that I did anything, you know. You people have made as though I've done something great, which is probably not true. But you have been very generous in your, and lavish in your praise, kind to overlook shortcomings that I'm very well aware of. And I'm reminded of ancient wisdom. Every now and then it'll come. Whenever we do something and we expect something in return, and whenever what happens in return is not commensurate with what we expect, either do much, much more than what we expect, it's much, much less than what we expect, then usually the Western way of understanding is we ascribe it to good fortune or bad luck. Sir Anant would often recall words of Swami Dayananda Saraswati. So I remember his words on this. He says in the Indian tradition, in the Indian wisdom tradition, we never talk of luck. Every action has a reaction. As you sow, so shall you reap. But often we don't get to see the fruits of what we sow. And there's a name for it. It's called Adrishta Phalam. Drishta means you can see. Adrishta means you can't see. And the Adrishta Phalam can manifest anytime. And so if you've got something very positive, like the way you people spoke about Devdas Menon, and it's not something that you expect, then you must have done a lot of punya karma in your past. And that is coming as this adrishta phalam. Of course, the reverse is also true. And in a way, this is the Indian explanation for why good things sometimes happen to bad people and bad things can sometimes happen to good people. But I think a lot of adrishta phalam, which is very good, has happened to me in this lifetime. First, I think the fact that I was born a set of parents, the parents that are no more with me, my first teachers, I must have done a lot of punya karma to have a life partner who has stood by me for more than 3 decades. I must have done a lot of punya karma to have a mentor like Professor Rao, Professor Rajagopalan, Professor Kalyan Raman, Professor Matthews, so many, and so many who are not here. I must have done a lot of punya karma to have the kind of students I've had. In fact, I cannot recall any negative experience in my life. I've lived a privileged life. And so I can only feel a deep sense of gratitude. I have been a student of life, and I will remain one lifelong. We get to put on different costumes in life. And here I have had to play the role of a spouse. She's been a great teacher to me. A student and a teacher. Those of you who have taken my course on integral karma yoga, in fact, I'm reminded of someone who met me yesterday, an old student. And he asked me, "Sir, how are you?" That's a normal, and the normal reply is, "I'm fine, how are you?" But that's a Western response. So I didn't do that. I wanted to remind him of what he may have learnt in the course. So I asked him, "Which you are you referring to?" And he paused and he reflected. "Are you referring to this body? Sthula shariram? If you are, then this body is getting old. Kaumaram yauvanam jara." And when Professor P.S. Rao said he knew me from the age of 17, those were the youthful days. And now this body is old, and it'll happen to all of us. You will be asked to leave. But it's nice to leave with a sense of grace. You must have done something well if people talk well of you, even though you may not have actually done. So he said, "No, not the sthula shariram." Then I asked him, "Is it the sukshma shariram? The indwelling mind, life force, jnanendriyas, karmendriyas?" He knew all that. Because that is also changing and aging, not necessarily becoming wiser. Are you asking about that? Because that depends on my mood. Because right now I may be feeling good, so I will say I'm fine. But let's say you came at a moment where I was irritated, then if I would, to be honest with you, I'll say I'm not. Are you referring to that? He said, "No, I'm not referring to that." Then I asked him, "What are you referring to then?" Then he paused and he remembered the contents of the course. He remembered Tattvamasi and all that. So then he went silent. Then I said, "Are you referring to that blemishless self which you think is in me? Then isn't your question a little redundant? Means you've not really understood." He went very quiet. Then I asked him, "Is that you are now referring to, is it not also yourself?" And then he said, "Yes, maybe I should be asking, how am I?" So, I like telling stories. In fact, yesterday I think Sukumar's wife Bindu, who was my old student, was kind enough to tell me, "Sir, I don't remember anything you taught me, but I remember your stories." And that's probably true. I mean, we remember the stories of our great teachers. Professor Radhakrishnan, who is no more with us, taught us Priestess Concrete. I don't remember anything that he taught me, but he taught us a lot of stories. I'll never forget them. So this is a story which all of you may have heard. It's Yaksha Prashnam in the famous Mahabharata. Yudhishthira was asked a series of questions, I think about 20 questions. And he had to get all the answers correct to save his brothers who were drowning in a lake. But one of the questions which he asked, which we will never forget, we'll never forget if we know what that question is. That question is, what is the most surprising thing in this whole universe? And Yudhishthira was very well informed. Without hesitation, he said, it is the fact that we see people dying around us, but never do we ever imagine that we could be the next one. I will now extend that to retirement. My father retired. I remember I was then a student at IIT at the age of 58. Lived a very humble, honest life. A middle-class family. Had savings. And you should remember the condition of families. The fixed deposit interests, and you can see how they all go down with time. So many people we've seen retiring. I never thought that I will be ever retiring. Never. Because you feel so young and full of energy, and you're told you're 60 years old. Actually, we have an ID card in which we are told that, like food when you buy or medicine, there's a date of expiry. The ID card gives the date of expiry. Date of birth also it will give. Date of expiry is after this date, you are not. You are superannuated. I don't know what that word means. Superannuated. But it's fine. It's just a phase in life. Kaumaram, Yauvanam, Jara. The Kumara has to perish the infant has to perish for the child to be born. The teenager has to perish for the adult to be born. The adult has to be perished for the old man to be born. And the old man has to perish to make way for younger generations to emerge. But there is something imperishable. And this human life is precious. I believe that we should get the fundas straight, to use IIT lingo. Made by Sir Rajagopalan about I started my own so-called startup in about 1983 or 84 in Delhi with two. How I faced these ethical issues, and I said, "This is we'd learned that you have your own boss. That's the greatest thing that you can achieve in life." And I realized that you're never the boss. The client is always the boss. And like Socrates said, you will know in the depths of your soul when something is wrong. He said if success is, all the big government projects, you have to deal with the officers. And it's very strange. We did a big project for a township in Uttar Pradesh. I won't name the mention. It's a public sector company. And the engineers there were very friendly. In fact, they invited us to their home for Ramayana part. And these very guys were the ones who were blocking because they wanted the bribe. It's deeply embedded in the system. I said, no, if this is what success is, something is wrong. And then I asked all these successful people I knew. They were CEOs of companies. In fact, I asked myself first, what is the meaning, what is the purpose of life? And I was really surprised that I had never asked this question of myself earlier. You know, we are supposed to be very bright IIT students. One great thing I learnt in IIT, for which I'm deeply grateful, is in IIT, they never complete the syllabus. They teach you only basics, and Professor Rao used to give us open book exams. So they taught us how to learn. And the rest you can figure out for yourself. And we did figure out. And our peer group was extremely good. So I asked myself, why have I never asked this fundamental question in life ever before? You know, we got into engineering because everybody, that was a rat race. Somehow we got into IIT. And then the next step. But what for? What's the end? And that question hit me hard. And so I was really eager to know. It was mentioned I'm very goal-oriented. So I said, I have to know the answer. I asked all the big shots I knew. And I got the biggest shock in my life when I discovered, they gave some shallow answers. Nobody knew. Seriously. Nobody knew. They said, if you think in that direction, you'll go mad. I said, we are already mad living a life that we have really not understood. They said, if you go to the Himalayas, maybe there are some rishis there who know the answer. So I took it seriously. I won't describe that part of the journey, but my eyes were really opened then. But the mentor I met there, Swami Krishnananda, told me something very beautiful. He said, we have given up the material world. But our great rishis before us never did that. So there's no need to do that. Live a normal life. And you'll figure out how to live life, provided you keep asking this question. And that was very healthy advice. When I came back, I got news that my parents were not well. So I said my first duty, and they didn't want to come to Delhi, is to be with them. I'm just giving you a brief story of how I got into academics. It's true, IIT BTechs, especially those who stay back in India, and only about 10% of us stayed back. Don't treat teaching as an immediate option. I never thought of teaching as an option. I wanted to practice. I was enjoying my practice. But then I wanted to be with my parents. I was the only son. I have a sister. So I actually spoke to my father. I said, do you think I can do something here in Calicut, small town? He said, I don't know what you can do here. You want to start something here, but here. Then I realized it's not very high-tech there. And so he mentioned, there's an engineering college here. It's called Regional Engineering College. Maybe we'll go and meet a professor there who was our relative. We went to his house, and he quickly surveyed this. He said, look, you are doing real technology out there. You're earning a lot of money. Why do you want to come here? And he said, look, it's a low-paying job. And it's not easy to get in here. They have not advertised for the last 5 years, and it's not easy. So I left, and I told my father, let me know if something comes up, and I went back. within 2 days of our conversation, an advertisement appeared in the local Matrubhumi. I think Bashir and Sukumar will also remember, because I think they also came for the same interview. Or the one before that, I don't know. No, but the one, you were, I think, not permanent. You were, okay, whatever. So to cut a long story short, you heard Professor Pillai, I suddenly knew that a communion is possible. I clearly knew, the moment I saw the advertisement, it's a call. I had no clue about teaching. I was pushed into a classroom, I still remember, asked to teach Structural Analysis 3, which nobody wanted to teach. I asked, what's the topic I should teach? They said, teach Kani's method. And I didn't really know much. But I went into the class because somehow the teaching of my guru said, you don't have to worry, everything will be revealed. And I spoke about life. The first class was on life. But then I really enjoyed the first interaction with the students. Suddenly it became clear to me, this is my Swadharma. It was like a fish taking to water. So sometimes you have to find your Swadharma by trial and error. But there was no looking back. I realized that my real vocation was education. And even today, and even in the remaining years that this Thula Sharira has to go through, that will be the vocation. So, when I was working in Span Consultants in Delhi, we used to work some days 16 hours a day. It was really enjoyable work. People used to tell us, look, your boss is exploiting you. But we never knew that. We didn't feel time pass. I learned Punjabi because that's a language you have to use to speak to the draftsman. Everything was done by hand and calculator. The computers came much later. So we were trained in really intuitively understanding the behavior of the structure. You have to visualize how the structure is going to deform under a given set of loads. Even now, that training is very strong in me. You draw a bending moment diagram, you have to draw the deflected shape also. And you must know where the points of contraflexure are. And the book on structural analysis is all about that. So that was the training we got. And we got to see failures. So it was a very rewarding learning experience. And we never cared for money, really. I remember my first salary was only 1,000 rupees per month. Which was more than enough. I had a bicycle which I used to ride to the office. We used to go for lunch together, and it is not gossip or talking about movies or... There will be engineers coming from Stoop Consultants, same time for lunch. And that was a time when the Asian Games were coming, so we had all these flyovers coming up. So we would, the Moolchand flyover, we used to go and visit and talk. It was a wonderful learning experience. That started changing when we realized that to keep liquidity in the company, you had to do a lot of repetitive work. And that I didn't enjoy. I didn't like repeating just to churn out projects. So that's when I realized maybe we should look for options, and then started on my own, the startup. After coming to IIT, of course, I was quite happy there. I got married when I was there. Uh, it was all arranged, but we had a 6-month honeymoon period. I actually didn't know whether I should get married or not, but then I knew, Adrishta Phalam, I had to get married. And I realized the rishis also had no issues getting married. But it was just one meeting and yes. And then life has been wonderful after that. So I wanted to talk about this human life is precious. Because the technical stuff, all of us know. We've had wonderful sessions. But this basic principle in India, you know, when I joined here in IIT, I was actually invited here, so it was really coming home. No one told me what to do. The faculty was so welcoming. They said, you do what you want. So we had no metrics the way we have now. In fact, I was listening to the last meeting, the goals you set, we need 15 crores funding per year or quarter or month, I forget what it is, or so many papers we need to publish. No, just do your thing, man. And that's what really, because energetic people won't sit idle. They will do their thing. They will do what they really want to do. And so IIT gave us that freedom. Very grateful for the setup here. And the papers and all did come. They came on their own. In fact, before all this QS rankings came, we were surprised to know that IIT Madras in structural engineering was ranked in the top 50 for a few years. And no other department had that ranking. Don't ask us how it came. But once we woke up to ranking, we never got into that top 50 after that, no matter how hard we struggled. So even now, I think, I don't know where we are, 150 or 200. We're number one, NIRF, of course, but big deal. I still don't understand. If IIT Bombay becomes number one, fine, they're a sister institution. This whole idea of academic rat race, even today, doesn't make sense. But I realize the value of metrics. At least we know where we are. And it's a good measure. We've discussed this during this course. But if you are going to run after metrics, life is going to be pretty stressful. We are here to enjoy life. That's one thing that was crystal clear to me when I went to the Himalayas. Life is ananda. If you are not experiencing ananda, something is wrong in your attitude to life. The wisdom said tattvam asi. It didn't say tattvam bhavishyasi. Tattvam bhavishyasi means you will become who you truly are. You are already that. And that is of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda. And it's very true. So whenever I felt a sense of lack, I knew something was wrong. I was not aligned. So it's very, very important to be aligned. You may not know how to do it, but the very self-awareness that something is wrong, I think it awakens your antaratman. And that's all you have to do. Everything will get revealed. The other problem with following metrics, whatever it is, or wanting more, is not only that it's going to be a life of struggle, there's a struggle in wanting to get it. The struggle continues because you want to retain it. But I saw all the rishis were so effortlessly happy, there must be some secret in that. We had a conference here in this, I saw the advertisement, thinking big. Then the words of the rishis came to me, thinking wise is better. And not that you should not think big, you should think big, but that you must be aligned. So the other danger of running after metrics is you are likely to compromise somewhere. Some adharma you will do because it's so tempting. And that is not right. So the Indian wisdom tradition says, yes, there is a purpose to life. You begin by really wanting to have fun. That's what we do when we were little kids. Have pleasure. That's why we are hooked to the cell phone all the time. We are surfing. In Western psychology, they say that's the pleasant life. Everybody wants it. But then after some time, you realize, no, that's not good enough. I want to do something. It's okay to watch World Cup football, but actually to kick the ball is a different thing, to play the game. So then, and also to get the gadgets, to buy the things that give you pleasure, you need wealth. Very necessary. You need a livelihood. You can go through Maslow's deficiency needs. Yes, you need to feel a sense of fame. They do give us happiness. They are necessary, no question about that. But if that's your entire focus on life, then you'll really feel the pinch at some point later. Hopefully it'll happen at an earlier stage in life. But it sometimes happens very late in life, and then it's too late. So in Western psychology, in happiness psychology, they say the people whose center of gravity is on artha. Artha stands for even academic knowledge, even the papers and citations. You may remember my faculty colleagues jokingly, when one of our colleagues gave a tribute to Manu Santanam, because he noticed that Manu, all congratulations to Manu, had on 1 month received 1,000 citations. And he said, he must be doing something right. I agree. And actually, Manu is a great researcher. So I jokingly said, how great it would be if we could have 1,000 citations every day, perhaps every hour. Should we make that our motto? It was just in jest, but then I think my colleagues got... See, there's a big difference between running after citations and citations running after you. It's a huge difference. And I think in Manu's case, it's actually citations coming to him. He did not consciously go after them. But I'm not sure that's a message we are giving to the younger generation. So the students also, even in a course like self-awareness, because we now have 200 students, there's always that bunch, 25%, some of whom who copy. Imagine, you're learning about dharma and you're doing adharma. It happens. We are humans. And we know it, but we gently tell them. See, so we have to figure it out ourselves. So then you realize at some point in your life that life is not all about taking and grabbing and wanting. It's also about giving. It's also about being truthful. And that's where the third Purushartha comes in. It's very important. It's dharma. And I think we are not, as teachers, we are not giving adequate attention to that. You're talking about sustainability and all that. Sustainability is dharma. So, many people whose center of gravity is there, living an altruistic life. In Western psychology, they say such people are living a meaningful life. Look at that, meaningful life. And they are close to self-actualization. I wish all our students live meaningful lives, all our faculty live meaningful lives. And in most religions, we stop there. Even in the charts that Professor Ravi Sinha showed yesterday, the top is self-actualization. Not in the Indian tradition. Because even then you'll feel something lacking, something missing. And it's there that the Upanishads start. The Upanishads start with the student saying, look, why is it that I'm not happy? What am I missing? What is this whole purpose of life? Why is it that I am feeling bound? Why is it that I'm always limited? I feel intuitively that I should get the limitless. I want that limitless freedom. Is it possible? And the teacher, the Rishi says, I was waiting for a Shishya like you to show up. Unless you ask that question, there's no use giving the answer. And so all the Upanishads are dialogues between the student and the teacher. And at some stage in your life, you too will ask that question. Because if that question is answered prematurely, it won't make a difference. The awakening of Nachiketa is priced at $0.99 or 79 rupees on Amazon, ebook. That's less than a cost of a samosa, yaar. Because there's no royalty. I have conveyed it to those, and many people have spread the message, but very few will buy it. Then we did a generous thing. We said, we'll put in the money, we'll give it 250 copies, we'll give it to even my own classmates. Big mistake. Because you'll never open the book. Or you'll open the book and you know it's not yet, you're not ready for that. It's true. But those who are ready, and it's a wrong understanding that you have to be a retired person to start asking those questions. Absolutely wrong. Many people think that Bhagavad Gita is meant for retired people who have nothing better to do in life. Arey, Bhagavad Gita is given to Arjuna on the battlefield of life. And when we teach these courses, we are careful to stay away from religion. We pick only the universal aspects of the teaching which are applicable to all people at all times. When you talk of the gunas, you understand when the student is falling asleep in your class that it's the tamo guna which is possessing that individual, nothing else. Now, there's nothing called a Hindu tamoguna and a Christian tamoguna or a Marxist tamoguna. So, that is a beautiful way a scientific way to understand this deep wisdom. And you'll be surprised. Duvuru Sriram, my classmate, instituted 2 awards for these 2 courses, Self-Awareness and Integral Karma Yoga, for the best performing student. Many of the awards have gone to Christians and Muslims and to foreigners. And they are still in touch with us. So that's the idea of the system. Now I'm very grateful that in the departmental consultative committee yesterday, they said these courses can, because there was a request from the institute, must continue. And they asked me, are you willing? I said, it's my IIT. I'm willing. So I think these 2 courses will continue. as long as this Sharira is capable of. That's the link to IIT Madras. I want to raise, because time is short, I'll just raise 2 points. Oh, it's too late. So let me quickly summarize. One is the biggest wrong message that we sometimes get in life is that we think we are the doers. In fact, we ask this question, what have you done to deserve the post of professor? Then you'll say, I did this, I did that. Now, that's all right when you play the game of life. But if you actually start believing it, that's avidya. So there's a beautiful line in the Gita which says, Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. The vimudhatma, the deluded person, you may be a PhD holder, you may be a big shot, but you are deluded. Vimudhatma. Karta aham, I am the karta. Iti manyate. Completely wrong knowledge. So we have to outgrow and see that there's a dimension of life much beyond that. I will end with one story, because I always like stories. This is a story about Tansen during the time of Akbar. Akbar is not that bad emperor that some people make out to him. He was actually a very, very wise person who took the best out of most religions. In his court, there was this great singer, Tansen. So one day he asked Tansen, you sing so well, who was your guru? He says, my guru was a great man, his name is Guru Haridas. Is he still alive? Yes. He says, summon him to the court, I want to hear him sing. And Tansen says, I'm sorry, Shahenshah, he doesn't follow anybody's orders. He lives in his own free way. Then he said, okay. Do you know where he lives? He said, he lives in a cave near Vrindavan. Now, Agra is not very far. And you know, Akbar was a great explorer, and he loved to put on disguise and travel incognito. So he said, then I'll go in disguise, he may not recognize me, you also come along. So both of them go this long way, and they reach the cave. Now, Haridas sees them. Then he recognizes Tansen, calls him. Tansen tells him, look, this guy behind me in disguise is the great Shahenshah Akbar. He has only one small request. Haridas doesn't speak. He says, he just wants to hear you sing. Anything you want. Doesn't say anything. Then Tansen goes to Akbar and says, I don't think my master is going to sing. He said, no. If I want something, I will get it. I will go inside and wait in the cave. You also better come with me. We'll sit there in Satyagraha till he sings. They sat there for 2 days. Third day, early morning, Akbar wakes up to melodious music. He doesn't know where it is. He's totally enthralled. Beautiful classical Hindustani music, the master of all, coming from outside. He must have been singing for a couple of hours. This man is just blown away. Then the music stops. And then Akbar rushes out to fall at the feet of this great maestro, but he finds that there's nobody there. So even Tansen is awake and he says, where is this man? We have to find him. Tansen says, that's my guru. He doesn't want NIRF ranking 1. He does as he pleases. But you had a wish, that wish was granted. Then Akbar felt happy and they went back to the court. Akbar can't sleep at night because the melody is playing in his mind, you know. They didn't have tape recorders and all that, but the mind was playing. For 1 month it kept playing. 1 month later, Akbar calls Tansin and says, look, I can't get this off my mind. I want to hear it again. Do you know the song? Can you sing? Will you please sing for me? So Tansin was hesitant. He says, no, I'm sorry, I should have said it the other way. I order you to sing it tonight in the open court. And Tansin does that. In the open court, he sings the same song. Everybody applauds. Akbar waits for everybody to leave, and then he calls Tansin and said, you sang beautifully. If I had not heard your teacher, I would have said, this is the best music I've ever heard. But I'm sorry to tell you that compared to the way your guru sang, this is nothing. But Tansin took it very well. He said, I take it as a great compliment. Then Akbar asked, what's the difference between his singing and your singing? He said, there's a big difference. I sing because you order me to sing. I need your money. I need the fame that you spread about me. I also get the chance to flaunt my talent before everybody. My Guruji has no such need. He doesn't sing. That which is the source of the whole cosmos sings through him. That is what speaks and what listens. That is all there is. That is something that needs to be experienced in everything we do, in every breath, in every work, in structural engineering. That is the way forward. That was always the way. Tattvamasi.